road safety, which remains a major concern here in Clare, particularly following a sharp rise in crashes on the M18 and N18 late last year. And with public anxiety growing and emergency services pointing to dangerous driving as a key factor, the government says new legislation could help turn the tide. Joining us now is Seán Canney, the Minister of State with responsibility for road safety, to discuss whether these new laws will make a real difference on Clare's roads. Minister, thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me, and good morning to all your listeners.
You're progressing two major pieces of road safety legislation this spring. Can you outline for us what's contained within them?
I can, but first of all, I just want to say for everybody who has lost a loved one in a road collision, and for those who got seriously injured, I just want to express my sincere sympathy. It's a major blow, and it's a sobering thought that 190 people lost their lives on our roads last year. I just want to acknowledge that first. Yes, we are providing additional legislation, which will be on our spring legislation programme. And the first one is the National Vehicle and Driver File Bill. And that one is to do a number, there's about 12 different points to that, but the most salient ones would be strengthening the legal basis for sharing vehicle and driving data held in the National Vehicle and Driver File, and also restoring clear legislative basis for local authorities to directly receive and process road collision data. And this is important to identify places which are of danger and road areas which need safety measures to be carried out. Abolishing the requirement to display the motor tax disc as part of the wider paperless disc project, allowing for the judge to consider, or a jury to consider, a charge of careless driving where a defendant is acquitted of dangerous driving. And this is a gap that was highlighted by Judge Horton's report into the death of the late Seán O'Farrell in an accident. And it also allows for operators of mobile safety camera vans to provide certificate evidence in court rather than to have to attend in person. And this frees up people to be out on the road checking the speed limits rather than sitting in court taking up valuable time. And I suppose there are a number of other provisions in it, but I think it is important to say that these provisions will actually also provide for clarity on the application of penalty points and multiple offence incidents. So, for instance, if you're caught speeding, drink driving, and maybe some other offence, at the moment you'll only get 3 penalty points, whereas with the new legislation you could get up to 7 points because it would be combined. These points would be combined because of the offences you've committed. So I think they are very important, sending a clear message that the government mean business. The other legislation we're bringing in is the road traffic bill, and I suppose the introduction of this would provide for a graduated penalty point system designed to strengthen deterrence and addressing repeat offending. So there again, the more often you offence, or the faster you're going, you then will receive a higher penalty points. And the other thing is the further expansion of safety camera enforcement to reduce speeding. And the last one is to address some of the anomalies in the existing traffic legislation to ensure that we have clearer and effective enforcement, because some of the road traffic acts go back to 1961, so we need to update all of them. So I am taking it on behalf of the government and with the full government support that we will actually progress these bills in the coming months.
There has been huge concern locally, as I'm sure you're aware, about the number of crashes on our roads here in Clare, particularly on the M18 and N18. I'm sure as a Galway TD you'd be familiar with those. Were you alarmed by that figure showing 41 collisions in just over 3 months last autumn, which was a dramatic increase? And what does it tell you about what's happening on the stretch of road?
Well, I would say, first of all, it is alarming that we have that on a national primary route, on a road that has been constructed. It's a modern construction, so it's something that will be looked at by the local authorities, by TII, to make sure that if there's any what we can see reason, if it's a specific enhancements that we can carry out to improve safety on the road, we will. And I suppose at this point I want to say we will have all the legislation in the world, we can have all of that, but we also have to come back to the point that people driving on the road people who are using the roads, whether they're a motorcyclist, whether they're a cyclist, whether they're a pedestrian, they all have a responsibility to themselves and to one another. It is no doubt there are four main reasons why we have collisions on the road. One of them is speed. One of them is the fact that people are drinking under the influence of drink or drugs. People are not wearing seatbelts. And lastly, but more commonly coming into force, is this issue of distraction. People using their mobile phone as drivers or passengers, showing driver stuff on their mobile phone. And I think it's important that we look at that and say, right, personal responsibility is important. Everybody needs to mind themselves. They need to mind the passengers in the car, their responsibility, but they also have responsibility to all other road users. And I think we have to work together to educate people and young people, and we have education programs in place with the RSA to ensure that people understand. But I think everybody has to just stand back and take a deep breath before they put the key in the ignition and say, look, is this something? Where am I going? What's the purpose of the car? Car is to get you to your destination, not to get you there as quickly as possible.
Indeed, and many of the issues you've raised, we had an extended discussion about the situation on the M and N18 recently on Morning Focus, and emergency services part of that, and did point to driver behaviour being a major factor in many of the crashes, including speeding, distraction, poor lane discipline. You've taken us through the road traffic bill. You clearly believe the current penalty point system is not strong enough to deter dangerous behaviour. But some drivers also feel they're just unlikely to be caught. Would you accept that enforcement hasn't been strong enough? And will these legislative changes actually increase the chances of enforcement being visible and consistent?
Yeah, well, I would say to you that over the Christmas, the Garda Síochána dedicated road traffic enforcement operation carried out 10,000 checkpoints. And they made 765 arrests for driving under the influence of intoxicants. They seized 3,000 vehicles for different offences off the road, and they detected over 26,500 speed offences, and that was over a 5-week period. Yes, enforcement is an issue. The Gardaí have increased the number of people on the out on the road doing their with the road traffic fleet. They've increased the numbers there. Also, every Garda is mandated to spend 30 minutes of their time out on the roads. More Gardaí will be, as the force numbers increase, more people will be out on the roads. We also have the use of technologies and the use of average speed limits, average speed cameras. We also have fixed speed cameras. We have all of that, and we will be increasing the investment in that. And again, we will be increasing the investment in our roads to make sure that they are safe, and that if there are accident black spots, that we sort them out as well. There is a huge amount of what I would call moving parts in all of this, but I think it's important to say that we are trying to make sure that we increase enforcement, we strengthen the legislation, and also we educate people into how things can go wrong in a split second, and you will not get that time back. It is important that people understand that when you sit into a car or a van or a truck and you're going on a journey, the purpose of the exercise is to arrive there safely, not to arrive there as quickly as possible.
The safety cameras, will the expansion of safety camera enforcement under the road traffic bill, will that lead to fixed or average speed cameras on routes like the M18 and N18? Can we expect them at some point in the near future?
Absolutely, we're investing in that as we speak. In this year, we will be bringing in more cameras. The important thing here is that they do work. I've seen it myself on roads. I was going one night from Dublin down to Limerick, going cross country, and when we reached the average speed camera signs, you could see how all traffic slowed down, how all traffic remained in their lane, and there was no overtaking or anything like that. And it was like as if it was a different world, but actually it showed that the average speed cameras do work.
The TII is now committed to elongating the off-ramp at Junction 13 at Tulla Road. As welcome as that is, I'm sure you would acknowledge engineering alone isn't enough to fix the problem, and Junctions 13 and 14 have been particular issues. Are those the kind of locations that should be prioritised for permanent speed monitoring?
Yeah, I think so. But as well as that, if there's a specific issue or a specific number of occurrences of accidents or incidents or collisions at particular points. We have got to look at that from an roads engineering point of view, from a safety point of view, and we have to do the analysis to see exactly what's going on there, and we need to take corrective action, be that road improvement works, be it additional signage, be it more enforcement of the speed limits, whatever it takes, we need to do it to make sure that we save people's lives.
How will the bill, the National Vehicle and Driver File Bill, help authorities better understand why crashes are happening in places like Clare? We've already discussed there's quite a number of elements that are feeding into this, be it driver behaviour, more enforcement, more safety cameras, speed cameras needed. How will it help better understand why what's happening is happening?
Yeah, well, the first thing I think is that it is necessary, and it's been an anomaly where information on collisions on the roads cannot be shared directly with the local authorities, and they have to go through a very difficult route to try and find out what caused the accident and get the data and get the analysis of what caused the accident. That is important, so the local authorities know what is going on, and then they can take appropriate action in the design of safety improvements and get them funded and get them carried out. I think that is the basis of good, I suppose, improvements, so that we have effective improvements by making sure that we take the analysis, we take the data that we get and that Gardaí have of what caused an accident, what can we do to prevent it into the future, and I think that's very important.
People commuting daily on the M18 are saying they feel less safe than they did a year ago. Minister, what reassurance can you give them right now, not just when legislation passes, that things are going to improve?
Well, what I would say is that, first of all, I would be saying to anybody out on the roads, be careful, be vigilant, put your phone in the glove compartment. You don't need it while you're driving the car. You need to get to your destination safely. I would say to people using the road, we have a responsibility, each one of us as an individual, but also collectively. And I think it is important as well to say that the legislation is there, but enforcement is happening. And I've given you data for what happened over the Christmas, and it's not just at Christmas that these road checks are out there. There's a huge amount of them going on, and you will see more visibility. That is a deterrent.
It is a deterrent, but even despite that, and despite the statistics that you gave me from over the recent period, there's still quite a lot of poor driver behaviour going on. And it was another element of the discussion, extended discussion we had on the issues of the M18 and N18, that there's never been more distractions for drivers in their cars, be it your panel that has entertainment, music, and has your GPS from Google Maps and all of that. And still a lot of people who are quite easily distracted, even something as simple as drinking coffee in the car. And people are still, despite the level of enforcement you highlighted, likely to take risks or chance their arm.
Yeah, and I suppose what I would say is that the modern car is more like an office than it is actually a vehicle to bring you, transport vehicle to bring you from A to B. There are the technologies that are in cars now. Some of them are great safety features, but then we also have what I would call distractions, and if you want to change a channel in the car, you have to do this, that and the other. I think we need to go back to the simple button on off, and we also need to make sure that our phones are out of sight and out of mind while we're driving the car. And I think passengers have a responsibility there too, not to be distracting the driver, not to be looking at their phones and saying, oh, look at what's on this, or even putting on stuff that would distract the driver. There's a lot of personal responsibility here as well. And I think everybody using the road, including passengers, including drivers, pedestrians, as I say, motorcyclists. And we also have the issue of e-scooters on the roads now, and that's another issue that we're looking at seriously to see how we can actually beef up the regulation to make sure that people using e-scooters understand that they are also vehicles and they should drive them with care and at particular speeds. And one thing I would say, there's a regulation there where you're not supposed to drive an e-scooter until you're 16 years of age, and I hope parents understand not to be buying an e-scooter for a child. It's actually illegal to have them on the road.
You spoke about education being important earlier on in terms of driver behaviour. What about education in terms of e-scooters? Is that something that needs to be looked at or improved upon?
I think the education, in fairness, is for everything. Whether you're a pedestrian on the road, whether you're a cyclist, whether you're a motorcyclist or are using a car or an e-scooter, you need education. You need to understand the consequences of doing things wrong. We're providing education courses in national schools, in secondary schools. We have a lot of cooperation with the schools on that. The TY students are getting courses and all of that. We need to do more of it. We need to do it more oftener, and we need also to make it, I suppose, an agenda item for every organisation in this country, that even with sporting organisations and all of that, that where people gather and they have an agenda to talk about things, I think they should talk about road safety. Just to mention it, even if to the case of be careful driving home, take it easy on the roads, whatever it is, where you have young people, I think it's an important, where they gather, I think it's important that that is an agenda item as well.
Just finally, Minister, all of this sounds great on paper, but it is just that at the moment, this road safety legislation. How quickly will these bills, and I'm sure the listeners want to know this, how quickly these bills will translate into actual changes on the ground, the cameras, the prosecutions, the data sharing, everything else you highlighted, rather than just changes on paper?
Well, I would be hoping that the legislation will be placed by the summer, but I would also say that there is a lot of legislation there. There is a lot of enforcement going on at the moment. We're not just waiting for this. We are actually in action at the moment. We have a road safety strategy. I think it's important that we continue to highlight and to also educate people, and we need to have a communication process to keep people alerted to the dangers of being careless on the roads. Collisions kill people. Last year we lost 190 people, and the devastation that caused. I would say even as late as this weekend in my own constituency, we had another fatality. We've had 4 fatalities, and we're just coming into the 3rd week in January. So we need to slow down. We need to look at what we're doing. We need to understand the dangers, but we also need to take the responsibility. And I would ask everybody just to draw a breath, maybe make a New Year's resolution that they're going to think about the car, what it's for, and what it is supposed to do. It's supposed to get you to your destination safely, not to get you there as quickly as possible. OK, we do have to leave it there. But Minister, thanks for joining us on the show on this morning. Thank you very much. Take care. That's Seán Canney, the Minister of State, with responsibility for road safety. And the RSA provided us with a response in relation to statistics on collisions on the M18 and N18. It says in 2025 there were 13 injury collisions reported to and recorded by An Garda Síochána in County Clare on the M18 and N18. Of these 13 injury collisions, 3 were serious and 10 were minor. This information is provisional and subject to change.